All right, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to the draft evaluations of today. And today's going to be all about the right guard position. We're doing right guard today. And a couple of interesting factors with the right guard spot before we move into the draft prospects. So, first of all, just as it pertains to the Seahawks, we actually do have a starter from last year returning at this position, or he was the starter for a good chunk of the season at least. So there is a little bit of continuity here, and it does seem like this team is probably going to accept the Anthony Bradford experience in year two. And I don't have a problem with that. It can go wrong, of course, but we're in the position right now where we have to accept that some of the things we're doing may go wrong, and that's just the risk that we have to take. We can't just have everything be put in concrete here. We have to accept that maybe some of the things we're trying to do here won't work because we can't afford to do anything more secure. So I get it. And the other day we signed the Rams guard, Tremaine, and that is probably going to be your backup right guard. Combine that with Nick Harris having a little bit of right guard flexibility. Theoretically, we might be set at the position for 2024. However, I I don't feel like that is something that we're going to be strictly married to. Tremaine is probably on a very small contract that would be very easy, if not completely free, to release him from in the coming months. So it's possible that he's just kind of a hedge in case we can't find something better. And there is the possibility of finding something better in this draft. And we're going to go over that today for sure. But I'm not convinced that there's a strong marriage to what the Seahawks have at the right guard position right now. So we're going to take a look at some of these guys. Now, keep in mind, right guard is, generally speaking, the least important of the offensive line positions. The tackles are obviously more important. Left guard in the modern day is more important because it's so rare to find a true left guard. Center is more important because he's got to call out the blocking schemes, he's got to call out the blitzers, he's got to get everybody in the right place. Right guard is kind of what is left, mostly because it's not that hard to find a competent right guard. You don't need to spend a big capital on getting a right guard because there are right guards all over the place, competent guys that you can bring in who will hold it down. Now, I think that part of that is having a good all-around line, by which I mean that you want to have a lot of good things at the other positions so you can kind of protect that right guard who is not that good, but it is generally considered to be a less valuable position. And I'm relatively hesitant to spend anything higher than a third round pick on a right guard most of the time. If I'm spending a high pick on a right guard, he better be Zach Martin. He better be Larry Allen. All I'm saying. With that being said, I do like the top of this right guard draft, and I do like the guy at the very top, Haynes. So let's go ahead and take a look at him and see what he's got to bring to the table. Yukon, Connecticut, Huskies. Couldn't find his age. 6'3", 317 pounds, 33.5-inch arms. Pretty good for an interior lineman. 9-inch hands. His testing numbers were mostly really good. Ran a really good 40. Solid 10-yard split, 1.75. 33-inch vertical, 8-foot 6-inch broad jump, not quite so good. 25 bench press reps was okay. But overall, this paints the picture of a pretty explosive and a pretty quick and a pretty agile guard. And keep in mind that traditionally speaking, right guards, those are the guys who are taking on nose tackles. Those are the guys who are worried about being road graders. So when you find a guy who can play that right guard spot that also brings agility and athleticism to the table, that's the good stuff right there. That's the stuff that you want. If you can find a guy who can do that and also bring enough strength to handle like nose tackles and one techs, now you've got something. Some of the big boards have Haynes in the late second. Some have him in the early to mid third round. The mock draft database has him in the early third. It would not surprise me if this guy crept up into the late second when all was said and done. He brings a lot of attributes to the table that I think are going to be very appealing. Over the last couple years, he's played well for UConn. He did give up a lot more QB pressures in 2023, but overall, still a good season. Improved his run blocking significantly, and we've seen him be a lockdown pass protector as well from 2022. So what I can say about Christian Haynes in the positive is really easy. 4 years worth of college starts. He's an incredible athlete for a right guard. You don't find right guards who can play like this that often. And while we do kind of have a guy who can do that in Anthony Bradford on the team right now, he's a great athlete. He doesn't have the cleanliness. He doesn't have the ability to play well the way Christian Haynes does. He was a team captain at UConn as well. We like that kind of stuff. He's proven on his ability in space and on pull blocks as well. And that's kind of the thing that's going to pull me in here. If I'm going to spend a high pick on a right guard, I want him to be a really good scheme fit, and Christian Haynes definitely is. It's not just the agility, it's not just the testing numbers, it's what he did at UConn. It's really good, it's really impressive. And he's also got strength. He's got good leg drive when he's clearing a hole for a running play. He's good. He can move the defender out of the play. He's a heady player as well. He gets the most out of every opportunity he has. He's good with his hand placement. He's good with angles. He understands angles really well. He has a good grasp of all these things that you need in order to find success at the NFL level. And he's also a guy who understands blitzes, stunts, twists. He knows how to pick that stuff up. Always got his head on a swivel, always looking around for the block that needs to be made. So there's a lot of awesome stuff about Christian Haynes. Some of the things he's got to clean up. He can lean forward into contact sometimes. He's got to have better contact balance. Can't be leaning forward. That's how you get out of position to a counter move. Needs to tighten up on his hand width. His hands get a little bit wide sometimes. Needs to tighten up a little bit. He can get attacked by the speedier rushers, I feel like. Sometimes he doesn't protect his edges as well as he should. Again, as a right guard, that's not as important, but it is something to monitor. There are some minor concerns about his size. He did test fairly well, but he didn't necessarily look like a right guard sometimes when you look at him in uniform on the field. And he might attract some holding penalties in the NFL because he does kind of let his arms get away from him. But those are mostly things that can be fixed, I think, and they're things that can be easily covered up. You're not going to see speed rushers attacking the right guard all that often. So Christian Haynes, he's the kind of guy that I would go after in a circumstance like this. He's the kind of guy who I think would be worth spending a high pick on potentially. Not saying this team not saying this team should, but right guard, this is the kind of guy that I would covet at the position here. Very clear fit in zone blocking schemes. He brings a ton of appeal for pretty much any team. I think he's got the toughness and the strength to also excel in a gap-based scheme. I think he can do it all. I would prefer him in zone because you don't want to let that athleticism go to waste. But I like him a lot. Do I like him enough to take him in the second round? That I'm not so sure of. I do think that open season should kick off as soon as the third round kicks off, basically. I would take him as soon as the third round starts. Now, if I needed a right guard a little bit more, if we didn't have Anthony Bradford, I might say go for it in the second round. I might feel a little bit differently then. But as it stands, I would wait until the third round for Christian Haynes. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. More coming soon.